Welcome to the Estrangement Project, where we talk about estrangement, relationships, boundaries, and the family dynamics that shape how we connect with other people. Today, we're talking about something people often hear after they've been estranged from a parent for a while: reconciliation. The person asking about it might be right. Research on family estrangement has found that many people who become estranged from a family member eventually have contact again. Estimates vary depending on the study and how estrangement is defined, but renewed contact is common, especially in mother daughter relationships. For some people, hearing that feels hopeful because they want a relationship with their mother. They want things to improve, and they haven't completely given up on the possibility that something could change. Sometimes something does change. A mother apologizes, starts respecting boundaries she ignored before, or becomes willing to talk about things she used to dismiss. A daughter might also have enough time away to figure out what kind of contact she can actually handle. Reconciliation can work, but when someone tells you that most people reconcile, it's important to understand what that statement actually tells you. A statistic about estranged families can describe what happened across a large group of people, but it can't tell you whether your mother is willing to change, whether the original problem is still happening, or whether renewed contact would work well for you. Your aunt might tell you that families eventually work things out because she's seen that happen over the years. She might genuinely want that for you, and she might believe she's offering reassurance. She's still talking about families in general while you're making a decision about one specific relationship with one specific person. There's also a big difference between resuming contact and repairing a relationship, and those outcomes often get grouped together. A woman who sends her mother a birthday text once a year is technically back in contact. So is a woman who talks to her mother for 10 minutes every few months, sees her at family events, or has rebuilt enough trust to spend holidays together again. Depending on how a study defines reconciliation, all of those women can be counted as reconciled even though their relationships look completely different. So when somebody says most people reconcile, it makes sense to ask what reconciliation means in that context. Are they speaking occasionally, seeing each other regularly, rebuilding trust, or simply no longer maintaining complete no contact? It's important to understand this because some women reconnect while keeping very strong limits. They might only meet their mother in public, limit visits to an hour, avoid certain subjects, or stop sharing personal information. They might decide that holidays are too stressful or that staying in their mother's home creates too many problems. For some women, those limits are exactly what make contact possible. They aren't returning to the relationship they had before the estrangement. They're deciding whether a different version of the relationship can function better. Estrangement also doesn't always happen once. A daughter might stop speaking to her mother in her 20s, reconnect a few years later, stay in contact for several years, and create distance again. She may try again later under different circumstances. That doesn't automatically mean she made a bad decision at any point. Relationships change, people make new choices, and sometimes the only way to know whether something has improved is to see what happens when contact resumes. A mother might say she's changed, and the daughter might decide to give the relationship another chance. The changes might last, or the same problems might start happening again. There can also be good reasons to reconsider contact years later. Some parents become more reflective as they get older. Some mothers eventually understand why their daughter left, and some apologize clearly for specific things they did. Therapy, illness, aging, or major life events can also change how people communicate and what they're willing to discuss. The daughter can change too. Something that felt impossible to manage at 28 might feel manageable at 40 because she has stronger boundaries, more confidence, and more control over how often she interacts with her mother. She might decide that occasional contact works for her even though a close relationship still doesn't. If she chooses to reconnect, she doesn't have to return to the same expectations she had before. A lot of healthier reconnections involve deciding what contact will look like before it starts, including how often conversations happen, how long visits last, where they take place, and what subjects are off limits. It also helps to think through what you'll do if the old behavior starts again. If your mother begins criticizing your parenting, insulting your partner, pushing for more access, or ignoring a boundary you've already explained, you can decide ahead of time how you'll respond. Having contact doesn't require giving up control over the terms of that contact. Reconciliation also doesn't have to begin with emotional closeness. Sometimes it starts with a text, then a phone call, then maybe coffee. You can pay attention to what happens during each step instead of deciding immediately what the entire future of the relationship will look like. Watch how your mother responds to the pace you're asking for. Does she respect it? Can she tolerate hearing no? Does she push for more than you've agreed to? Can she listen when you talk about why the estrangement happened, or does she immediately become defensive? Those responses tell you much more about your situation than a general statistic ever could. Some people also choose not to reconcile. Their mother never takes responsibility. The same behavior continues, or every attempt at contact creates the same problems. Other women simply reach a point where they no longer want the relationship, even if renewed contact would technically be possible. Women who remain estranged can still have marriages, friendships, careers, children, holidays, and full adult lives. Their family structure might look different from what they expected when they were younger, but they adjust to it and continue living. Estrangement doesn't automatically mean someone is waiting for reconciliation or hoping the relationship will eventually resume. So when somebody tells you most people reconcile, you don't have to argue with them. You can acknowledge that many people do reconnect while also recognizing that the number doesn't make a decision for you. You still have to look at the relationship you actually have. Has anything changed? Has your mother acknowledged what happened? Can she respect limits? Do you want contact? And if you do, what kind of contact would you want? What would have to be different for the relationship to work better this time? It's also worth asking what you would do if you tried again and discovered that the same problems were still there. Reconnecting doesn't obligate you to stay in contact indefinitely. You can reconsider the relationship again if the experience gives you new information. Reconciliation is one possible outcome. Continued estrangement is another. Some people settle into limited contact, and some move between different levels of contact over the years as circumstances change. So yes, when your aunt tells you that most people reconcile, she might be right about the general pattern. She still can't tell you whether you should reconcile with your mother. That decision has to come from the relationship in front of you, the behavior you're seeing, and what you're willing to participate in now. If you're looking for more information about estrangement, boundaries, difficult family relationships, or what happens after no contact, visit theestrangementproject.com. You'll find articles, books, and other resources created to help you understand what you're dealing with and make decisions that fit your own situation. And if you found this video helpful, subscribe to the Estrangement Project for more conversations about estrangement, relationships, and boundaries.